King, there's only one thing left for you to do. You know what it is. This is an anonymous letter sent by the FBI to Martin Luther King, urging him to commit suicide. He was one of the primary targets for the FBI's illegal surveillance program in the 60s called Cointelpro, the counterintelligence program which targeted many civil rights groups, such as the Black Panthers and the American Indian Movement, and activists like Stokely Carmichael and Malcolm X for more than a decade. The purpose was to, quote, expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, and otherwise neutralize the possible threats against the existing order. The program was exposed in 1971 when a group of activists stole documents from an FBI office on the night of the Muhammad Ali-Joe Frazier fight and leaked them to the press. Today, Cointelpro is something people recall from the past as the darkest FBI program exposed so far.
A minority of maybe one in thinking that Watergate was a kind of a tea party. Actually, I was asked to write about Watergate right away by the New York Review, and I agreed, but I said I would write only if I could explain that it didn't amount to anything. In fact, it was pretty striking. The Watergate exposures came out at the very same time as the exposures of Cointelpro. Same time. Cointelpro was a massive government criminal operation directed against the population that went through 4 administrations, mainly Kennedy and Johnson, and Nixon started a little earlier. And it targeted virtually all critical thought and action for not only surveillance, but for disruption. It went way beyond the Snowden case. It went as far as literal political assassination. In fact, right at the time of Watergate, there was an exposure of the fact that in 1969, in one of the Cointelpro operations, this is an FBI operation. FBI is the National Political Police. So they were trying to destroy the black movements, and they really decimated them. Mostly the worst case, which had just appeared at the time of Watergate, was the assassination of Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton was a Black Panther, an organizer, a very successful organizer, no criminal charges, nothing like that. He was organizing in the Chicago ghettos. The FBI, under Cointelpro, wanted to assassinate him. They tried at first to incite a criminal gang in the ghetto, the Rangers, Blackstone Rangers, to kill him. They sent false letters to the heads of the Rangers written in kind of fake black dialect, which they decoded instantly. The FBI is not very smart, to try to tell them that, that Fred Hampton was going to go after them, so they'd react, but they didn't. What happened is that the FBI had implanted an informer who was Hampton's bodyguard, and they gave false information to the Chicago police about guns in the apartment. 4 a.m., the police broke in, really a Gestapo-style raid, and just murdered him in his bed. That act alone just swamps all of the Watergate exposures. And interestingly, it was barely reported. And that's only one. I mean, they went a lot of other things under Cointelpro, which was far more serious than Watergate, and I think more serious than the NSA.
You are the ones who are going to decide for yourselves what happened in that apartment on the morning of December 4th. You're going to decide whether or not Fred Hampton and Mark Clark were the victims of premeditated murder.
This is December 4th, 1969 at 10:54 a.m. My name is Skip Andrew, and I'm at 2337 West Monroe Street, Chicago, Illinois. This door, which is the door entering into the living room, has 2 holes in it. This one I'm pointing to right here, 10 inches. And on the edge, and this one down here 12 inches. The first one I referred to being 25 from the top, and the second one 36 from the top. Now, as you open this, there's also, of course, a knob door in this one. As you open this door, there's blood behind the door. The top hole shows that the bullet was incoming.
They fired through the door and hit the brother through the door. The brother fell here. Most of the blood is dried up, but you can see a little bit of it there and a little bit of it on the floor. The brother was shot 4 or 5 times, so after they came through the door, they shot him again to make sure he was dead.
Mr. Montgomery, Dr. Constantino testified today that Mark Clark could not have struggled after receiving that shot through the heart. Now, in your mind, does this contradict the testimony of Officer Davis, who described a struggle?
Yes, it seems to me that that was a very startling thing. We also learned that the bullet, which was in fact recovered from Mr. Hampton's body, was a bullet fired out of a carbine by Officer Davis. So that indicates also that Officer Davis may well have walked into that back bedroom, contrary to his testimony, and fired a shot into the body of Fred Hampton at one point in time or other.
Mr. Hanrahan, can you tell me why your officers did not try to use tear gas? Isn't this the usual procedure to flush someone out of a building?
Our officers used the means necessary to effect the search and to prevent themselves from being killed upon after they were fired upon.
Isn't it true that your men usually use tear gas in situations such as this, and why didn't they use it this time?
No, that is not true.
It is not true?
They came with murder on their mind, you see. Even if they wanted to take somebody to jail, it would be a simple matter of just shooting some tear gas in here to draw everybody out, right on. This is where our chairman had his brains blown out, and he lay in his bed, sleeping at 4:30 in the morning.
Someone came into the room, started shaking the chairman. Said, Chairman, wake up, the pigs was laughing. Still half asleep, I looked up, and I saw bullets coming from, it looked like, the front of the apartment, from the kitchen area. And they were, pigs were just shooting. And about this time, I jumped on top of the chairman. He looked up. Looked like all the pigs converged at the entranceway to the bedroom area, the back bedroom area. The mattress was just going. You could feel bullets going into it. I just knew we'd be dead, everybody in there. When he looked up, he just looked up. He didn't say a word, and he didn't move, except for moving his head up. He laid his head back down to the side like that. He never said a word, and he never got up out the bed. The person who was in the room, they kept hollering out, stop shooting, stop shooting. We have a pregnant woman or a pregnant sister in here. At that time, I was 8.5 to 9 months pregnant. My baby was to be delivered in 2 weeks. Pigs kept on shooting. So I kept on hollering out. Finally, they stopped. They pushed me and the other brother by the kitchen door and told us to face the wall. Heard a pig say, he's barely alive, he'll barely make it. I assume they were talking about Chairman Fred. So then they started shooting the pigs, they started shooting again. I heard the sister scream. They stopped shooting. The pig said, he's good and dead now. The pigs were running around and laughing. They were really happy, you know, talking about Chairman Fred is dead. I never saw Chairman Fred again.
This isn't the first time the headquarters have been raided.
Second time, it wasn't raided. This time we were attacked, man. They just, you can look at the windows, man.
Was there a fire in the...
They set a fire after they got through. pig set of fire, man. They did it.
After they got the brothers down, they went back up there and the fire started.
Nobody was up there except the police when the fire started.
Right.
Frank, you want to come?
Get a picture of that dude, man.
Yeah, check that door out, man. Magnified shotgun.
Learned enough from other bystanders to confirm the woman's story. Cook said similar tactics have been used to raid on Panther offices in other cities recently. The Panthers, Cook said, have strict standing orders not to fire, but return any fire directed at them. Injured men, identified as Larry White, right on, and attended Cook County Hospital, said they had head wounds and undetermined gravity. It was believed the man may have been injured while scuffling with police seeking to take them into custody. Right on, Pete. Pete ran it. Pete jumped from the roof. Right on! Right on, Pete. He's taking them doors. Right on, Pete. Pete ran it. Oh, ran it. Pete ran it, goddamn. I don't want to get it. Will it be somewhere? We here? We ain't going nowhere.
Bobby Hutton was murdered. Bobby Hutton's body was a house down. They said he'd come out with a gun, and they had floodlights on the place. If he'd have had a gun, they'd have shot him on the front steps. Now his body was down, then the fire trucks come along, they washed blood away, of course, but they literally murdered Bobby Hutton and shot and wounded Eldridge Cleaver and Warren, these other men. This is what the police department has done. After they've set the house on fire, the fire department set the house on fire, put tear gas in the place, etc., shot the place all up. Fellows came out of the place with their hands in the air.
It is my opinion that this is the latest in a series of attempts to liquidate the leadership of the Black Panther Party. At first, they moved against Huey P. Newton, Minister of Defense, and they are well advanced in framing Bobby Seale, the chairman. And now, for the first time, they have moved directly against me, shooting me and attempting to kill me. I think this is a calculated plan that has been carried out.
We have to learn to look through the white press. We have to learn to see what's going on. Now, out of this platform, Huey P. Newton realized that it was necessary for us to start working on these points, these 10 points, practically. Remember number 7? We want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people. This is very, very important. And here, whether you know it or not, is where you start dealing with the black revolution. When Huey says every black man put a shotgun in your home, and once we let the man know, say, look, we armed from block to block, and we're going to patrol you from our windows. And we're not going to have you brutalizing none of our people in the streets. Do you realize what kind of power black people have then? Because you begin to neutralize that police force, because them cops going to start riding shaky and scared. In fact, we're in a position then to demand that they withdraw from our community because they occupy our community just like a foreign troop occupies territory. Very important to understand. We hate cops beating black people over their heads and murdering them. That's what we hate.
If they're trying to present themselves as a democratic nation, as a free nation, trying to get Africans under their wing, and Africans in America are under revolt and they're crushing them, it will cause too many problems. But J. Edgar Hoover was not a fool. He understood his job. He had to crush this movement. That's why Cointelpro was not only instituted, was also quiet. Because this one could not get out because it was aimed really just at us.
In the 1960s, the Black Liberation Movement was the #1 target of Cointelpro. And the Black Panther Party specifically was targeted by J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI, and the CIA, and all of the repressive forces in the United States government. And so I was one of those young people who was targeted by Cointelpro because I was an activist, because I was opposed to the United States government's policies, because I was opposed to racism. And so I ultimately had to go underground. I was ultimately captured based on being charged with false charges. I was captured. I was shot with my hands in the air. I was shot in the back. I was tortured, beaten. I was spent 2 years in solitary confinement in men's prisons because of my political beliefs. I was spent 6.5 years in prison in the United States, and what I learned about prison in the United States, that it's a new form of plantation.
Do you think the Black Panthers were successful? Do you think that they were wiped out by the government, or how do you view the situation?
I think that they were successful because they bred me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I believe myself to be the offspring of the Black Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I see and I learned from what they had. You know, they got did in by the media, their love for cameras, and an extremely sinister government. And they just happen to be born in the same time as a motherfucker named J. Edgar Hoover, a homosexual with a big problem. You know what I'm saying? A big problem. So they just was his victims. You know what I'm saying? But what they don't know is that if they would have let the Panthers continue to do what they was going to do, it wouldn't have been near one of them riots. It wouldn't be half as much as this crime. You know what I'm saying? But they didn't. Instead of letting us when we wanted to. You know what I'm saying? Like how America could go cross country, save another motherfucker's culture, but they'll stay here and fuck our culture off all goddamn day long. You know what I'm saying? Everybody and their mama, you asked me to tell you what they did. The Panthers, what they plan was to do was for black people to do for themselves. And they felt like not hate white people, but just be more black. If we all just stop mixed racing, stop interracial marrying and all of that bullshit, just stay amongst our own families, we'll promote some kind of black love between man and woman. We'll have more kids. And when we have more kids, we'll have a bigger population. You know what I'm saying? And if we own the businesses for our populations, then we'll have more money. If we have money, then we have power. If we have power, then we have land. If we have land, then we are people. You know what I'm saying? Then we, you know what I'm saying, got some kind of power in this country. But so they saw that Cointelpro, the counterintelligence program set up by J. Edgar Hoover, saw that the Panthers were doing a damn good job because all over the country they got this buzz, similar to how Thug Life is.
Drug life?
Thug Life.
Thug life.
Yeah. So now the Panthers got everybody talking about the Panthers and we want to be free and we want decent housing and talking good, not just bitch hole, you know, straight good. And they start infiltrating. Now, why would they do this to a young black organization? And why would you not think they would do it to me? They infiltrated them, meaning they got people to say that they were Panthers, they joined the Panthers, and they would start the ruckus. Like, say, let's go shoot up the Botanical Gardens or some shit. You know what I'm saying? And do it in the name of the Panthers, but it's a cop. You know what I'm saying? And everybody think it's the Panthers because he's dressed like a Panther. You know what I'm saying? And he's screaming the Panthers, but he's a cop. He's been sent by the FBI. They got papers to document this shit. You know what I'm saying? And straight up where Fred Hampton is laying in his bed, they hire his bodyguard to give them a floor plan of this man's house. A floor plan of this man's house. This is what they did to Saddam Hussein. A floor plan of this motherfucker's house. The police is doing this. Had the police raid this shit in the middle of the night. Nobody asked shit, just shoot. This man died in his sleep. You know what I'm saying? And they knew where his bed was. You gonna tell me the police could not get that man? You think I can't read? You know what I'm saying? They asked me why I write this shit. You think I can't read? You think I don't know what went down?
So in terms of you feel that you're a product of that, or
I'm a product of a society that will openly tell me that my life isn't worth anything.
Together, Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, yes, they got together with guns, and there's nothing wrong with that. because we need some guns. Black people need some peace. White people need some peace. And we are going to have to fight. We're going to have to struggle. We're going to have to struggle relentlessly to bring about some peace, because the people that we're asking for peace, they're a bunch of megalomaniac warmongers, and they don't even understand what peace means. And we've got to fight them. We've got to struggle with them to make them understand what peace means. Bobby Seale is going through all types of physical and mental torture. But that's all right, because we said even before this happened, and we're going to say it after this, and after I'm locked up, and after everybody's locked up, that you can jail revolutionaries, but you can't jail a revolution. Right. You might run a liberator like Harris Cleave out the country, but you can't run liberation out the country. You might murder a freedom fighter like Bobby Hutton, but you can't murder freedom fighting, and if you do, you come up with answers that don't answer, explanations that don't explain. You come up with conclusions that don't conclude. And you come up with people that you thought should be acting like pigs, that's acting like people and moving on pigs, and that's what we've got to do. So we're going to see about Bobby, regardless of what these people think we should do. Because school is not important and work is not important. Nothing's more important than stopping fascism, because fascism will stop us all. We're going to see about Bobby, because Bobby came and saw about us.